The Amusement Park was originally filmed in 1973 and is finally getting a release on Shudder. That took a long time.
That's what she said.
So let's talk about this psychological thriller. An elderly gentleman goes for what he assumes will be an ordinary day at the amusement park, only to find himself in the middle of a hellish nightmare instead. Welcome to my channel. My name is Justin. Here we focus on all your favorite content from streaming services and in theaters. If you love to watch movies and television shows like I do, you guys are in the right spot. Question of the video: what is your favorite George A. Romero film? Comment down below with your answer and there you can find mine. Originally produced in 1973, the amusement park was shelved by the Lutheran Society as they deemed this as an educational film about elderly abuse and ageism, but they thought the film was too graphic and had too much disturbing content. It was eventually shelved, and it was believed to be lost until a 16mm print was discovered in 2017 and used in a Romero retrospective at a film festival. It was given a 4K resolution and is now on Shudder. What works for the amusement park is George A. Romero's directing. He is a great director of horror films, The Night of the Living Dead to be the most notable one, but I've enjoyed the director over the years, and I've always kind of been curious about the amusement park, mostly over the last couple years. Why was this film shelved and what was so disturbing about it? This film is only 54 minutes long, so it is a pretty quick watch, and I do get the understanding of it being an educational video. In the beginning of the film, we are introduced to an elderly gentleman who's in a white room. He's pretty beaten up. He's afraid to go outside. He states that there is nothing out there. Another version of himself enters that white room and says he wants to figure out what's outside for himself. And so he goes outside, thinks he's at an amusement park. But what it really is a huge metaphor on American society and how they treat elderly people. It was relevant in the 70s. It's still relevant to this day. Metaphors in here about getting your driver's license taken away, or how people treat elderly people, don't want to communicate with them or interact with them, or them entering senior housing. The whole amusement park and the employees in the park and how the employees treat the elderly is a huge metaphor on American society and how they do treat the elderly. But George A. Romero's directing in here does make this metaphor and the overall pretty short film very bleak. The progression from this elderly gentleman who seems pretty excited to go on roller coasters and spend a day at an amusement park up until the end of the film where he does enter that white room, the progression from happy to sad, it ends up feeling very bleak and very dark at times. And since there isn't a lot of minor characters in here, Lincoln Mazel, who plays the elderly gentleman, is able to contribute to the story using his expressions and his body language to get the point across in the movie of the transition from being happy to really being taken advantage of in society. So with the lack of a continuing story and minor characters, it's left to George A. Romero and Lincoln Mazel to really carry this story. This movie was deemed as an educational video. If it was to be released in the 70s, I'm not sure if it would be released in theater, one, because of its short runtime, and two, because of how educational it does feel. In the beginning of the film, there's narration about American society and the elderly. Everything in here does feel like a metaphor for how people are treated. And that's one of the things that doesn't work entirely for me, is that the metaphors really feel heavy-handed at times and way too obvious. It may be signs posted around the park about the elderly and driver's license and housing and taking care of yourself. Whatever it may be, I think the metaphors would have been a lot more interesting if we really had to think about it, but instead they gave it away quite often. And this film feels very choppy. Now, I understand that it was originally filmed in the 70s and was eventually lost and restored back in 2017. So they did what they could with this film. I think the lack of narrative really does contribute to that choppiness within this movie. And with it being so short, it just feels very quick from one scene to the other. It just like here and there. This is a new metaphor. Here's a new metaphor. It's just all kind of being thrown at you all at once. It's a little bit jarring to take in all at once. And if you're a George A. Romero fan and you're expecting zombies or vampires or monsters, whatever it may be, you're not going to get that. You may think that the employees are like zombies in the film, but you just need to know what you're getting yourself into when you're watching the amusement park. It's just an educational video about how people are treated and ageism within the film. Sometimes the metaphors are just a little too obvious, and the lack of narrative makes the film feel a little bit wonky at times. So before I give you my overall thoughts and score on the amusement park, make sure to check out my other 2021 movies. You can find the playlist right up here. So overall, the amusement park, I've been interested in checking this film out for a while. I do like George A. Romero as a director. I was curious about the film, so right there's a lot of intrigue for me to check out this movie. I think that there is a lot of potential to make this a really interesting film if it could have had a stronger narrative and more of a runtime. But the directing in here and Lincoln Mazel and his expressions and that progression for the character really make it bleak and a little bit disturbing to watch at times too, for how the employees at this amusement park do treat the elderly. I do understand the message and the point of this film, even if it kind of hits you over the head a little bit with the metaphors and it does become really obvious in the film. I'm going to go ahead and give the amusement park a C+. Thank you guys for checking my review for the amusement park. It is now streaming on Shudder. Have you guys seen it by chance? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.